Eric, you're cracking me up. You should see Eric's faces
love
as
that
they were
song.
hitting those high notes. You were
Yeah.
kind of going, bah!
I was right there with him.
Eric Stromer, Cindy Dole. Hi, this is Home Wizards.
Hello.
Hello. And so, hey, it's summer still in many parts of the country, although in other parts it's actually they had snow and it's getting colder. Regardless of what the weather is, there's something to be said about ceiling fans.
Ceiling fans, you know what I love about them? They displace the hot air that rises to the ceiling with the heating system, or when it's hot in the climatically it's hot. And it blows the walls, the heat around the side of the walls and then back down again. If you have air conditioner and you have a vent up high, it'll disperse that air conditioning cool air down to the lower part of the room. If you've got a tall room with a cathedral ceiling, chances are all your energy is going to be trapped up there and unusable.
So it pushes it back down?
So the ceiling fan is a great way, whether it's hot or cold, to condition your air essentially within your house.
And there might be a light fixture attached to it.
Absolutely. There's a light fixture oftentimes, and you can get these things from about $100 to $250. It's probably an easy to a moderate thing to install yourself. Time to do it, probably about a half a day. Let's just give yourself a half a day, 5-6 hours. Probably way less time if you're a little bit handy, but if you've never done it, give yourself a couple hours. So the first thing you want to do, you want to determine the right size fan. So if you've got a bigger room, obviously you're going to have a bigger fan dimension. So
they have bigger ones, huh?
They do. There's actually a company called Big Ass Fans.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and
they're big.
And they're beautifully
Industrial.
designed and industrial looking, but they work really, really effectively. So for example, if you've got a wall that's less than 12 feet long, you're going to need a fan that's got a 36-inch diameter, okay?
Mm-hmm. And when you say diameter, you mean from end to end?
From fan blade to the left to fan blade all the way out to the right.
Okay.
That you want 36 inches minimum.
The whole spread.
The whole spread, exactly. And if you've got a wall that's 12 to 15 feet long, you're going to want a 42-inch fan. And then anything over 15 feet in wall length, it's going to need to be at least
jumbo.
52 jumbo.
Otherwise, it'll feel like a little
Otherwise,
teeny,
you got a tiny bit of air right here. Yeah, so
nice
you
fan.
definitely want something
like a little munchkin fan.
You want to make sure you don't undersize a fan. And then if you've got, conversely, a really small room, you don't want a huge fan.
Right.
Because it's going to feel out of proportion visually, and it's also going to feel like it's going to blow the top of your hair off, right? So there's definitely right sizes, okay? The other thing you want to do is you're going to always, most of the time, you're going to want to install the fan where an existing light fixture is in your ceiling.
We're going to replace the light fixture. We're not going to start from scratch,
If you start from scratch, you're probably going to need to get an electrician to do this the right way, because they're going to have to get inside the ceiling, run wire that isn't there, and it's a whole different project.
Let's not do that. Let's say that we already have a light fixture. It's in our living room, and we'd like to put in a ceiling fan.
And in this scenario, it's actually very simple, because all you have to do is find your breaker panel in your house and have the light on in that room, and then have your spouse or your kid move those switches if they're not labeled, and is it off? What?
Okay, it's off.
Is it off? I can't hear you. You go through that for a little while until finally that particular light is switched off, so it's off. You can also get an electrical tester, which is an inexpensive device that you turn on and put it up into the wiring, just touch it on anything, and if it goes, it means the power's not off.
And then it's hot.
And then it's hot. And if it does not do that, then you know that you're safe. So once the thing is disarmed in terms of electricity, you pull the old wiring out and that light fixture out. You usually unscrew 2 screws on either side. With a screwdriver, pull the thing down. You'll see wires attaching either 2 or 3 different locations. Take them off and replace the wire nuts, which are those little plastic screws that go on the wiring to keep it from shocking and shorting. Put those back on all 3 of those wires, right? Take the thing down, the fixture. Then here's the critical key component. When you're doing a ceiling fan, you're definitely going to want to have a buddy with you. So if you have 2 ladders, even better, because what you need to do is get this big base of the ceiling fan up to that box, and wire the old wires from the ceiling to the new wiring on the ceiling fan, and make sure that you have somebody holding it close enough so that you can reach those wires together, right? You can't do it with one hand holding the fan and one hand trying to wire.
No.
You definitely need a second pair of hands.
So here's a question, because we just did this. My husband actually helped install our new ceiling fan, and we had an issue because you want to have that extra support to go from a lighting fixture to this heavier ceiling fan, and he couldn't find. He kept, using the screwdriver, and he would find it would go right through. He wasn't
there
finding
wasn't a stud in the wall, right? I know.
Uh-huh.
And so a lot of times those boxes, those are what we call a box is the thing that holds the wiring junctions together so that sparks won't shoot out and start a fire. It's usually a metal or a plastic box that holds the interior wiring. So if that is not attached to a beam in the ceiling, it's not going to be able to hold the weight of the fan because they can be up to 15 to 20 pounds, right? And then add in that they're spinning around fast, and it becomes this really awkward thing. And as a matter of fact, the hanging devices for the ceiling fan is like a ball and a socket scenario. So this ball thing clicks in so that it can freely turn and swing within the stabilizing force that goes into the ceiling, right? So somehow you've got to install that receptacle, which is the not the ball, but the other part of it that holds it in place. You have to put that up and find solid wood to hold it within the stud configuration. If you don't have it, you may then have to open up the ceiling and find studs and create bracing and framing to then hang this thing off of. But for the most part, boxes are generally attached to some wood in the ceiling, and as long as you have that connection, then you'll probably be safe with a ceiling fan. The smaller ones, obviously, the lighter ones aren't going to need as much reinforcement. If it's a big ass fan like that brand I was talking about,
that really is a brand.
Yeah, you're really going to need to have some additional support in the ceiling. So anyway, once that bracket is installed, you have your buddy holding the fan in one hand with his ladder. You have the wiring, and you're able to make those connections, which you'll follow the manufacturer's directions on which wires to go where. And then you get those wires attached to each other, and then you put those wire nuts back on, tuck this wiring back up into the ceiling, lift the fan up so that the ball goes into the socket, and then you've already got your escutcheon that covers the wiring that's in place to then push up into the ceiling and attach with screws. And basically that's it. Turn on the light switch, and you're either going to have a manual control that has a programmable controller, right?
Like a remote, you
or
mean?
remote, exactly. Or just turn it on and off at the wall switch, and you should be good to go. And then if it's got lighting, there could be some additional wiring that you're going to have to pay attention to. But for the most part, that's the basic system of how to install one of these things.
So when do you put the blades on?
The blades go on at the very end. So you want to make sure that the electrical's all working, the lights are effectively working, it dims. The speed control works, because I've had issues where there's not enough amperage going to that particular box, so it doesn't make the fan operate at full capacity. And then in that case, you've got some wiring issues that you have to address in the house. But for the most part, it should operate effectively. So make sure everything works and everything turns, and then turn it back off again. Climb back up the ladder with those fan blades, plug them in. They usually screw somehow with a screw attachment that compresses down on the fan blade, and it should swing pretty evenly and be balanced because it's brand new.
And speaking of swinging, which direction for summer and which
clockwise with the angle of the blades facing downward is going to be summer, and then counterclockwise for winter because you're sucking the heat back down around the walls.
Perfect.
So
Love it.
Yeah.
Good tips. We'll put this on the website, yourhomewizards.com. Thanks for hanging out with us. Hope we made you smile and feel like you can improve your home and improve your life. Eric Stromer, Cindy Dole. Remember this, until next time, the key is under the mat. Bye-bye.
I'll light the fire while you place the flowers in the vase that you bought.